Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Omar, and it's been a while since I recorded any video. But yeah, in today's video, I'm going to be documenting my journey learning backend development. So originally, I'm more of a front end guy using React and Next.js, but recently I've grown interest in the backend side of things, and I really want to start learning it. So I think the best way to do that is actually create a series whereby I upload everything I learn bit by bit. So I always have something to look back to, and also get better while trying to explain it to someone. So hopefully I stay consistent with this series. And yeah, so the backend framework or library I decided to learn is Express.Js. So the reason I went to Express.js is that Express.js is really light and easy to set up, and it has a lower learning curve than other frameworks out there. But in the future, I'm planning to learn Next.js, and then uh yeah, start doing the advanced stuff with it. But for now, I just started, so we're gonna start simple with with Express. So in this first part of the video, I would like to just go on and revise everything I learned on the first day, which is setting up the basic Express app and also creating some basic routes. So we are only going to do get routes today. So hopefully on subsequent videos we are gonna keep moving down. So yeah, let's just get started. So the first thing we are going to do is actually initialize our Node.js project. Um, so the thing with Express.js is that it is unopinionated, meaning it doesn't have like some boilerplate code or some defined structure that you are going to use. Unlike other libraries or frameworks like Bootspring, Ruby on Rails, or even Python's or Django. So it's just going to give you the library, and then it's up to you to decide how you want to structure your project and what to call your folders and all of that. So let's just get started. So first of all, I would like to initialize the project in here. I'm just gonna do yarn init dash y to accept all of the default values, and as you can see here, we just have the name and all of this stuff. So I also want to change something here. I want to change the type of the project. I'm going to change it to module. So with module, you can be able to use the ES6 import keyword instead of using the require keyword. And also I would like to set up some scripts in here. So I would like to set up a start script which will just start my index file. I'm gonna call this index or GS. You can call it anything you want. And also I want to create another script for starting our development environment. So with our development environment, we are going to be using NodeMon. With the help of NodeMon, it's going to run our server in watch mode, so that any updates made to our files will get picked up, and then the server will be started. Without NodeMon, we'll have to do that manually. So I'm just gonna do NodeMon index.cs. Let's just put it in a folder src/index.cs like this, and that's it. So now we just need to install these packages. Let's just add in Express and our NodeMon. While that is running over here, I'm going to create that file. So src/index.js. Yeah, so it's done installing. Let's let's try running. Okay, we don't have anything in here, so let's just get that uh done. So the first thing we are going to do is to import in the Express. So I have to import Express from Express. It's a default export, so you don't have to destructure it. And yep, it's imported. So with Express, we just have to create we just have to invoke this function we are importing in here and store it in a variable. So I'm gonna call that variable app. It's just the standard name. You can name it whatever you want. So const app equals to Express, and then from here we can start building application from the ground up. This is step one, and the next thing we are going to do is to listen to incoming requests on a specific port. So let's just create a variable and call it port, which is equals to, normally you are going to get your port from your env file. So let's just do that, process.env.port. If we don't have a port in there, let's just give it port 3000. So after that, we come down here and say app dot. As you can see in here, we have a couple of functions and properties in here, but the one we need is app.listen. So the first thing we're going to pass in here in the port is the port we want to listen to. So port, and then we pass in a callback function in here. So this callback function is going to run once our application starts running. So we just want to let us know that our server is running. Let's just console.log listening on ports. Let's just pass in ports in here like that. So now when we come down here and say yarn run start dev, you can see in here that nodemon is watching any file with these extensions gs, mgs, cgs, and json. And after that, it ran our application, and yeah, our application is running successfully. So we can start sending a request to our localhost port 3000. And to send a request, I'm using this extension called Thunder Client, so that we don't have to write the code manually, because some requests are not supported directly by the browser. Like, you can't pass the body of a request from the browser except using JavaScript, or you use other third-party applications like Postman. But we don't want to go that far. I'm just going to use our Thunder client in here. So in here, I'm just going to click on new request, and then let's go to our localhost port 3000, and we are getting an error in here. Why? Because we can't get forward slash, which is our empty endpoint. It is the base URL here. Why is that? Well, that is because we have not set up any route. We have not told our application to do anything when a request is sent to that endpoint or route. So we have to tell our application to do that. So our listening should be at the very bottom here, and then up here we just have to say app dot get. So you can use any of the HTTP methods in here. It could be app.get, post, or put, patch, or delete. But for simplicity, like I said at the beginning of the video, we're only going to set up our get route. So get, the first parameter we pass in here is the name of the route or the endpoint, which is forward slash, and then after that we pass in our handler or our request handler. This request handler is a callback function, so we're just gonna do this, but it also gives us, or it also takes in two parameters. The first one being the request sent by the user, and then the next one being the response, which we are going to use to send our responses back. So we are only going to just send we do response dot send, and we're gonna send a message. So let's do message, let's do hello world. And now when we come back to our request and send that request, we get a hello world message back from our server. So that is the basic get route to fetch data from our server, and in here we are only passing a message. But let's just simulate something else. Say for example we have an array of users, so this is going to simulate our database. So our user will have some ID of 1, maybe a name, and maybe age. What is going on? Okay, age, let's say 19, and let me just copy that a couple of times. So this should be ID of 2, 3, I don't know, whatever. It doesn't really matter what the ID is. Then we can do 20, 20, yeah, and then we can do Yunus, we can do Joe, and then we can do John. Oops. Yeah. So say for example from our front end we are working on some kind of a social media application and we want to get our users. And also here, if you notice, you can see that as we save our file, our server keeps getting restarted. As you can see here, it says restarting due to changes, starting node src/index.js and listening on port 3000. So we are going to set up our next get route. So app.get and then the route. Let's just say we are getting some users here. But one thing I noticed is that for a lot of applications, the path name when getting anything from the API always starts with API. So let's also do that. So /API/users, and then our request and our response and the body of our function. So in here we are going to send something back. So now we are going to send a JSON of the list of our users in here. So we are just going to do a response dot send, and then we send in our users. So don't worry if that is a JavaScript array, because Express will automatically pass it into a JSON, or it will stringify it into a JSON string. So in here, if we come to /API/users, and boom, we get our users down here. Let me expand this tab. This is our list of users. We get all of our users in here. So also in here you can see that the request is automatically set to 200. So whenever you use the send method in here, it's going to send a default status of 200. But if you want to change that, we can do that by chaining something in here. We can chain our status here. We can do status of, let's say, 201, and now when we send, we get our 201 created. But we don't want that, since this is we get a request and not a post request. So the next thing I also want to speak on is parameters. So the URL parameters. So sometimes when you want to request for data from your backend, you will usually pass in some sort of a parameter, and that parameter might be the user ID or the username or its log for a blog post, so you can fetch the information for that slug. So to do that in Express, we just have to set up a normal get route in here, and then we can name it /API/users, and then slash the user's ID, id. But for Express to know that this is a parameter, we have to add in a colon before the id, because without the colon it's going to be like this is a part name, or this is a route, so meaning we have to go to slash user slash id. But with slash or colon id, we are going to get the value, and it is going to be named id. So in here, passing our request, our response, and our function body. So now getting the id from in here is really easy. You can just destructure it from our request dot from our request dot param. So we are going to say const or id is equals to we call it right. So request dot params, like that. And now let's just console.log it in here. So let's just do console or .log id. So now if we come in here, let's open up our terminal, and then let's go to slash api slash users, and let's say 12 and send it. And as you can see here, this is the id of 12. If we pass in anything else, okay, this is still running because we are not returning anything, and you see we still get our parameters. So what we are going to do in here, let's just get a user with that id. So the first thing we want to do is to confirm that this id is a number, since the ids we use here are numbers, not strings. Passing a string will just throw an error. So let's just confirm that. Let's pass our id. Let's say our passed id is equals to pass int, pass the string into an integer if it is a valid integer or number. So we say that if it's none, meaning if our pass id is not a number, let's return some sort of error here. So what this is none function is doing, it returns a boolean value that indicates whether a value is the result value anywhere, not a number. That is because our pass id or the pass int function in here is going to return the number representation of that string we are passing if it is a valid number, only and only if it is a valid number. For example, if we go to slash api slash user slash 2, we will be able to pass the id and get a number. But if it's slash users slash and then some sort of name like this, is going to return none. So let's just return something. Let's just return res dot, and then in here we're going to send a status of 400 bad request, and then we're going to send a message, and that message is going to say bad request in valid id. So yeah, let's try sending this request again, and yeah, bad request invalid id. Wow, it took 1 second, so that it threw me off by taking that long. Let's go 8ms, and we get the message here, bad request invalid id. But if it's a valid id, we want to go on ahead and check if it exists in our ids in here. So let's just do that check. So let's say our user index, I forgot to say, yeah, first user index is equals to our users array dot find index. Let's take the user, and let's check if the user dot id matches our past id. if we have that, then if we have that, we should send back the user. Else we should throw a 404 error saying that the user is not found. Let's see if user index is equals to -1, because this find index here is going to return the index if it finds it, else it's going to return -1. So if it is -1, let's first remove this console.log and let's return an error. So let's return res.status 404. You don't have to pass a message, it's going to automatically know that that is a 404, but you can still chain your .send in here, and it's going to send anything. And also, if we are not going to chain in the send, we have to use the send status method instead of our status. So after that, we are going to finally send back our user. So let's do our response or .send, and then in here we are going to send, let's just pass in our users at our user index. So let's try running this and hopefully everything works. So /users/ some random string, we are going to get a bad request, and then if we try a non-existent ID like 11, we get a 404 not found error. As you can see, we didn't pass any message, but we get the not found. And if we try getting user 1, we get our user 1 here. Let's try getting user 2, we get user 2 in here. So I think that is that for this part of the video. Hopefully I was able to explain this well enough to understand. So let's actually recap everything we did today before ending the video. So first things first, we scaffold our project or created our project in here with this structure. You could use any structure you want. In our package.json, we set up some scripts and we change the type of our project to module, so we can use the import or keyword. We set up our scripts in here, and then we imported Express from Express package. So we imported the Express method or initializer from the Express module or package, and then we initialized it and called it app. You could always call it anything you want. We set up our port, and then we have our test users in here. We set up our very first route that returns hello world. We say that we could pass any HTTP method here. It could be delete, patch, post, and put. And the very first parameter we pass in here is the route name, and then our predicate or our callback function in here that takes in a request and a response. And with the request, we can access anything that was sent from the client. With our response, we can send back any response we want. So for this first one, we sent a hello world message, and for this one /API/users, we sent back all of our users. And for our get or request to API users at a specific user ID, we destructured our user route. You could always do this the normal way by saying your params is equals to request.params, and then from there you do id is equals to params.id. But the structuring is way easier and takes a fewer lines than the other method. Then we do some validation in here. The first validation, we pass the id into an integer, and then using what we get back from that, we decide if that value is not a number, we say that it's a bad request and an invalid id was passed. And if that is not the case, we check if the index exists on our user list in here or user array, and if not, we send out a 404 error. And then finally, if none of these returned anything, we are going to send our user at that user index. So that is that for this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more. I'm going to do this more often. This is just like a single part of what I learned already. I've already learned how to implement the other get requests that is going to be coming up in the next video. Once again, my name is Omar. See you in the next one.